everybody.
Welcome back.
I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we are Two Average Guys coming to you on the Cornhusker Nation Facebook page. Thanks for joining us today. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Huskers lost yesterday. We'll touch on that first. This week, what's nice about the Husker loss, if you want to put it that way, is we actually have some positives to take away from the game. So that's kind of nice, even though it was we gave it 42 points, but there were a lot of positives from that game. But I think the most positive thing that we'll talk about is going to be Coach Frost and his press conference after the game. So we'll get to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you weren't kidding. The first couple drinks of this is a little tough to get down.
Yeah, so we're drinking Old Style right now. We got some Bud Lights as backup, but Old Style. I got my Cubs shirt on. Last game of the regular season, they start in about 17 minutes, and I'm a diehard Cubs fan.
We need this win.
We need to win. We need to beat those Cardinals to win or potentially tie for a playoff game, a play-in game to the wild card tomorrow to see who wins the Central.
They're already in, so.
They're already in the playoffs, so we'll see. But that's why we're drinking Old Style right now. If you've never had it, it's rough the first couple drinks.
First couple sips, but, you know, it's the official beer of Cubs baseball.
It's worth it, yeah. You got to have it. So let's talk about our Huskers yesterday. So as I mentioned, it was a rough start. Not a rough start.
It was awesome.
We went down. We scored right away.
First time
we scored on our opening drive.
First time we did that all season.
Yeah, so we haven't done that all season. We looked good on that opening drive as well. A lot of positive things to take away from that opening drive. And that was exciting. I actually, my son decided to take a 3-hour nap, so I didn't actually see the first touchdown, the first drive.
It's too bad because it looked good.
Yeah, by the time I got to the game, and then they came down and scored on their first drive. And then we had a chance to score again on our second drive, and we get down 4th and 1. We went for it, and we put Greg Bell, and he didn't get it. After Zigbo had a fantastic drive on the first touchdown, they put Greg Bell in on the second drive, and Greg Bell got stuffed. And, you know, play calling, blocking, you got to look at everything on that play. But
yeah, going into the game, I knew that Maurice Washington probably wasn't going to be playing. He was sick last week.
He didn't practice at all, yep.
So knew Zigbo was going to have to come in, play a pretty significant role, which I thought he did, and I thought he was a beast. I thought he was a stud.
It's 17 rushes for 170 yards.
10 yards
and
rush.
2 TDs. So when you're averaging 10 yards per rush, that's a solid game. And
we had another 4th down later in the game that was a pretty pivotal spot, and we didn't have him in there. It's pretty tough to figure out. I know Coach Frost and these coaches are smarter than us, but when you see it like that, it's kind of hard to be like, why didn't you just put a Zigbo in it?
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk about that in a little bit because, you know, you got to look at a couple of things on the 4th down. Frost touched on it in the post-game conference on the 4th down play calling. Not only play calling, but the execution of the play. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So Zigbo had a great game, 17 rushes, 170 yards, and 2 TDs. Martinez, a lot of people thought he played terrible. He actually threw for 323 yards and 2 TDs. And he rushed for 91 yards.
And he was still kind of running for his life. At least in the first half, he was dropping back.
Yeah.
And I thought their D-line wasn't supposed to be very good. Their linebackers were supposed to be good, which they were.
Yes.
And they were bringing a lot of pressure. The offensive line, I guess, maybe played a little better in the second half, definitely. But
yes.
Not as big of an opponent as Michigan, so, you know, it's not as tough.
No, but we missed a lot of assignments on the offensive line. We still missed a lot of blocks. When they bring in an extra guy for the blitz, we wouldn't pick him up. And when they would shoot those gap blitzes, we still have not figured out how to stop those gap blitzes, and that's something that hopefully they'll be able to see in film and hopefully switch around and make some adjustments on the offensive
and there was a couple things with Martinez. He when he was getting that pressure kind of through the gaps, like you were saying, he hasn't quite figured it out yet. There's a couple times he just kind of stood in there, and then another time, and he's a true freshman. He didn't play senior year, so I mean, he's still learning. It's going to take some time, but there's another time he rolled out, and instead of throwing the ball away just out of bounds, he ended up running out of bounds, but it was 7 yards, and it just killed the drive.
Yeah.
And, you know, another thing, it's just so tough. Like, when we get these long, second and long, third and long, we're not able to really end up getting a first down. Whereas on defense, the teams have third and 20 on us, and they get it half the time.
Yeah, and we, our third down defense has been rough this year, and that's something we have to get better at. And our third downs have not been good this year. So there's a lot of things. And like you said, Martinez, he's a freshman. True freshman. He didn't play his senior year. So you're talking about a guy, it's been a couple years since he's played any snaps.
And he looks good. Don't get me wrong.
He's still doing fine, but he's making freshman mistakes. You expect that from a freshman QB. Anybody coming into the season who didn't think he'd make mistakes is foolish. I mean, yes, he made mistakes. It's going to keep happening. He's not going to be mistake-free throughout the entire year. He threw a pick late in the game, threw off his back foot. Really poor throw. He threw a lot of passes really high over the receivers in that third and fourth quarter. Yeah. Really wide open receivers where we had a chance to get the first down and keep moving the ball. But one thing too is this happened more than once, but we get the ball to Zigbo, 6 yards. So now we're at 2nd and 4, 2 passes. Now it's 4th down. We got to punt it away. So we get a strong run game going, but then we divert back to the pass. And once again, Frost and his staff are a lot smarter than we are, but watching the games from home and seeing that, hey, we're successful on that first down run, but we're also very predictable that, hey, they're going to run on first down, then they're going to pass, then they're going to pass. We have, to me, a very predictable offense, and maybe that's part of it with Martinez being in there as a freshman. Maybe that's part of that molding him into that quarterback that we want him to be or that Frost wants him to be is we have to be a little predictable in some of these games because – maybe it's too much if we add to. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be that they're just simplifying their actual, the whole game plan that they would normally have. They have to simplify it a little bit because of personnel. I know it is for sure because they're up to. We like to play up tempo, and the offensive line is not conditioned to be able to do that.
And a lot of people get frustrated and they get upset. Like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be up tempo. You watch UCF, they're up tempo. Why isn't Nebraska? But it's personnel. It's 100% personnel. We have to have the guys that are conditioned to run that up-tempo offense, and that's what we don't have.
And that's what I'm sure, is what they're looking for in recruiting. So they're going to get some offense. I think there was 2 or 3 offensive linemen that were visiting, or at least that are extremely high on the radar for this next upcoming recruiting class.
Absolutely. So, and that's one thing that, cannot stress patience enough. As much as it's been said, and a lot of people are like, oh, we've been hearing the same crap over and over again every year.
For years.
Man, anybody out there that's watching that says that, watch Scott Frost talk after the games. Watch his demeanor. Mike Riley last year, after every game that we lost, all 8 games, after the game, he smiled a little bit. We gotta watch the film. We'll probably have to change some things here and there, but overall, I think we did okay today. No, that was acceptable, and that's
exactly.
We talk about culture a lot, and Frost talks about changing the culture. The players talk about the culture and what it used to be with Riley, and that is what is so hard to get over. Is that culture of, hey, we lost, that's okay, we'll go into the next game. It's not okay, and you're gonna win. You're not gonna win every game, but. The press conference, Scott Frost, about 10, 12 minutes, I think he spoke, maybe a little bit longer. Some really good questions, but his emotionally driven responses is what got me. I'm sitting there getting chills up my spine as I'm watching this, and a smile just came to my face. I didn't even know it, but I started smiling. I'm like, why am I smiling? But you see this coach, and you don't see a lot of coaches that emotionally driven after a loss. You see them upset, or they might be ticked off about a few things, but he was honest, didn't bullshit around. These are the facts. We are undisciplined. We are the most undisciplined team in the country right now.
Yep.
For a coach to come out and lay down the facts for everybody to hear, including his team,
especially his team, and the fans.
That is something that fans should be okay with and want to hear, because he's not okay with losing.
Right, and he also, undisciplined is, by at least how I took it, is, they're getting undisciplined penalties, but it also seems like, just in general,
there's stuff going on outside of the football field.
They're undisciplined, as in a general type thing, so that they're not, he's got a certain way he wants to do things, and it seems like there might be some guys that aren't doing that.
Yes, and he mentioned, not only discipline. I don't want you to just be disciplined on the field. These guys need to be disciplined in the lunchroom. Say thank you to the people. Appreciate the things that they have in life outside of football. Because he mentioned losing a football game is not the worst thing that can happen.
Exactly.
And to hear him talk about how they should be behaving outside of the football field and how that kind of stuff can carry over to what you do in life. The way you discipline yourself by thanking the lunch lady and the people that clean your tables and appreciating stuff like that and being disciplined in your regular life outside of football, in the classroom, in study hall, and when you're just at home, in the dorms. That is what Husker fans should want to hear.
Yeah, he doesn't want people breaking rules. He wants them to do things right.
Yeah.
Because when you do things right, good things end up happening.
Yes.
And it takes obviously it's taken some time to, get this whole thing going.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think we're putting the groundwork in. What do they say? You got to build it from the bottom, right?
Yeah.
We're just getting that foundation laid right now.
Yes, and the foundation to me right now is all about attitude,
hard work,
respect, and discipline. And that's what these coaches, and that's what I respect more about Frost and his staff more than anything else, is they're not just teaching them or coaching them in football. They're trying to coach them in life, because all these guys aren't going to go pro. So what are you going to do after football? It's not, losing a football game, like you said, is not the worst thing that's going to happen in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem with Pelini, when we had Pelini, was it was more of like an us against the world type thing.
Yes.
It wasn't like a kind of how Frost is starting to do things around here now. Well, like you said, where you respect and discipline and just all that kind of stuff. So,
and I think Bo phrased it a lot differently. Like the way he went about it, he cared more about those kids than anything else.
Which was great.
And football. It was the kids in football. But and Frost definitely brings a different perspective. So to see his press conference, it was a fantastic press conference. Like I've never been so jacked up during a 10, 12-minute press conference by a head coach in my entire life. And
Exactly.
I said it yesterday. This is why he is here. This is why he is our coach. He doesn't want to be anywhere else. He wants to be in Nebraska.
And I was talking to some people yesterday. I mean, we should have this guy for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't have a dream to coach in the NFL or whatever it is. I think, obviously, we say it every week. We're going to get there. It just sucks in the meantime when you're losing.
Well, when we had opportunities yesterday, we had them.
We did.
And just touch a little bit more on the press conference before we go into a couple more details in the game. He also mentioned, or someone asked him about the players on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, he was pissed.
There was
he didn't know.
He found out about it.
He didn't know
so
during the game.
Players on the sideline. Purdue scored. They're about to kick off, and there's music playing, and there's players on the Husker sideline dancing. And he said, if I would have known about that, I would have stopped it right away, and those kids would have been sitting. I don't know if they were starters.
He said they were backups and reserves.
But it
doesn't matter. I get it. Like, it's kind of hard to explain. When you're on the sidelines, or when you're in a game and, a quarterback throws an interception, okay? He goes to the sidelines, he doesn't want to you don't want a kid to just be sitting on the bench with his, his head in his hands or something. You want him active and up and still into the game and get it out of your mind, have people slapping him on the back, whatever. So, I mean, I get it that you just want to maybe stay kind of loose or that type of thing, but when you're losing a game and you're dancing on the sidelines, that's bad luck.
That's bad. It's really bad, and he addressed that very well. He said he's going to take care of it. He wants to see who it was, and he's going to take care of that situation right away. And that's the kind of response you want from our coach. Someone asked him a question. I didn't quite hear it straight.
Yeah, you couldn't hear any of the questions.
The one question that they asked, but his response was, "I think I know what it is." But I'm not going to say it.
I'm not going to say it.
So I'm really curious to see what that question was, because that...
Yeah, maybe somebody knows.
Yeah, if someone heard that question or knows what it was, someone probably posted it somewhere. But there's things going on still, not only in that locker room, but on the sidelines. There's things going on that he probably didn't want to throw some players or maybe even a coach under the bus. I don't know, which is fine. But he he's standing up for his team, and he's telling, hey, we have guys out there that are battling. They are fighting every single play. Talks about Luke Gifford. He's like, he had a fantastic game.
He did.
He didn't mention Boodle, but my God, DiCaprio Boodle, he was awesome. He was probably our best defender yesterday. But you also got to look at Aaron Williams. You didn't really hear his name all game, but you know who he was covering? He was covering Moore.
Yeah, Matt Moore's awesome.
So Moore is fantastic, but he was not a factor in that game except for a couple plays.
I mean, I think he ended up having like maybe 80 yards receiving, but he
didn't
have a touchdown.
But I think Williams was covering him, and I think we did a good job on our defense of covering those longer passes because that's where Moore kills you. So really, I think Mo Berry had a decent game.
I mean, he's by far the best player on defense.
But we had
be great every week. But
what Frost was really mad about in that game was more the discipline than anything else. We don't get the 5-yard penalties. We're not going off sides. We're not doing the false starts. We're holding. We're getting the 10-yard penalties. We're having personal fouls. We're getting the face mask. We're getting the roughing the passer. We're getting the late hit out of bounds. We're getting those undisciplined plays that's killing us.
Yep.
And now I said yesterday, and you saw on the Cornhusker Nation page and Two Average Guys, that was probably the worst officiated game I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched a lot of football, but total game, that was a terribly officiated game. And on both sides, there were things that they missed on both sides of the ball, but there were things that were called that were not penalties.
I try not to harp on the refs too much. My dad refereed for 30 plus years, so I've just become accustomed to not blaming officials. Now, I agree with you. I've watched so much football, and that was the worst. I mean, we clearly had a face mask on, I think it was their quarterback one time. We ripped his head off, and they didn't call it. As I just said, man, these refs are bad.
They're bad.
And we were undisciplined. We had way too many penalties to begin with. But it just seemed like when we were trying to get back into this game, every time we had something, whether we stopped them on defense or we got a nice 15, 20 yard or first down, we had a penalty. And it was like, we couldn't get back into the game.
So I want to point out 3 of them. 3 penalties.
That's what I said. There was...
And I think there was a couple more that they called, but 3 really pivotal penalties that really hurt us. Their third down, when we got roughing the passer.
Where his hand
hit him on the head. He's being blocked by 2 guys.
He got pushed into him.
He got pushed and tripped.
That was Freedom, right?
Yes, Freedom. Okay. And his hand came up and whacked him in the helmet as he's making the tackle. Guys, this is not roughing the passer. This is football. The quarterback is not a weak person. He takes hits all the time. That's not roughing the passer. If you want to turn college football into NFL, put flags on the quarterback and stop letting guys even touch them, because that's what NFL is turning into. That's what college football is going to turn into if that's going to be a penalty ongoing. That doesn't get called. Listen, that penalty does not get called in Penn State versus Ohio State. That game does not get called in an Alabama and in any SEC game. I guarantee that penalty is not called by those refs because it's a hard play. It's fast motion. That is not something where he is purposely sticking his hand up to whack the guy in the head. And it's not a penalty. He didn't grab his face mask.
And it didn't have any outcome of the play.
Yeah, and if anything, it's hands to the face instead of a personal foul. So instead, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. That was a third down play. We stopped them. And that was huge because at that point, I think we were down 2 scores at the time.
Well,
35-21.
And one thing and again, you say the referees didn't cost you the game. I wouldn't say that.
No,
I think
we
shot ourselves in the foot too many times.
Yeah.
But the way these penalties happen and were called, it changed field position so much because every time we got the ball, we started between the 8 and the 15-yard line.
And momentum.
Yes. And even Frost said it. He was like, we should have been and that was more of a penalty of it should have been called, but it just swung things so drastically.
Yes. So we had that call. We had the holding on the outside. I think they called. Well, I got one more too. Okay. They had one on Tyjon Lindsey that they called the holding.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed the replay.
They showed the replay.
I don't even think he touched the guy.
I think he might have touched the guy, but it was just like
he pushed him.
It was just like he put his hands on him,
as the guy was falling down.
As the guy was falling down, he just put his hands on him.
So they call that. You had the holding on the outside by I think they called it on Stanley Morgan. We had a receiver and a tight end on the outside. Spielman's coming around, gets the first down on a third down. gets the first down. We have two of our receivers.
Oh yeah, it was Stanley
Underneath the pads. Their defenders also up underneath. We're holding each other and pushing each other. That's a football play. That's not holding.
Yeah.
That killed it. That killed the drive, pushes us back 10 yards. Guess what? We ended up having to punt that drive.
And guess what? When we did punt, they got the ball at like the 50-yard line.
Yep. And our punting was atrocious. Even though he averaged 40-plus yards,
I mean,
it was when you're punting from the 10-yard line, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
it
then
was
another
slick.
play,
He fell the one time.
especially.
No, I don't think that the punting was terrible. I
No.
think they were trying to keep it away from more.
True. Very true.
But like I said, just kick it as far as you can and kick it out of bounds.
Yeah, and then we had the punt return. It was our punt return that they called blocking the back on.
Oh yeah.
And you watch the play. Our guy's hand is on the back in fast motion and in slow motion. The guy didn't even fall down. He didn't push him. His hand was there, and his other hand's up here. He didn't push him. It wasn't a penalty. And those kind of things, like you said, that pushes us back 15 yards or half the distance to the goal.
Yeah, we should have been at like on their side of the field, and instead it was half the distance to the goal. So we
got back on like the 7. So those kind of things, yes, the ref does not determine the outcome of the game, but they for damn sure change momentum in a game, and they change field position in a game where it does hurt a team, especially when you're trying to battle back in a game. You're down 2 scores and you call a bogus penalty when we are driving the ball and driving it well. That not only just kills the field position and the momentum, but it kills your spirits on offense.
Well,
it's like, man, what do we have to do
to
be successful? Because we're trying to play hard. We're trying to do what we need to do to win the game. And every time we do something, we get a penalty call on us.
Well, and it also kind of changed your game plan as far as play calling goes, because you're starting in
10 to 15 yard difference.
You're starting in your own 10 to 15 yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of got your back against the wall right off the bat.
Yeah.
So
1st and 10, 1st and 20, big difference. Third and 5, 3rd and 20, huge difference. I mean, that you go from a 3rd and short to now you got 20 yards to go. That's a big difference in a game. Once again, when you're trying to battle back, and that was disheartening. I felt like every time that we had a play, a positive play, I'm like, where's the flag? Where's the flag? Like every time.
Yeah. I know, that's the group of people I was watching with. We were doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden it would come up, flag in the bottom corner.
And when we a couple of the TDs that we did score in the second half, I'm like, where's the flag? I'm just waiting for it, and we didn't get them. But God, like I said, I really feel like our D-backs played really well in that game. We did have a pass interference call
on Purdue.
But he didn't turn his head.
He didn't turn around.
That's the only reason why.
Did you
that bad.
Did you see there was basically the exact same play
Mm-hmm.
after? So that happened, and then there was basically the exact same play, and he turned around, and the receiver, just like
grabbed him,
tackled him, and we're all like, "There's offensive," and then even the guys on there were like, "Oh, people are going to be thinking that should have been offensive pass
Here's the
interference."
only thing that's offensive pass interference anymore in college or pro. It's a push-off. The only thing that's ever called offensive pass interference is a push-off now. They don't call... If 2 guys are going up for the ball, the defender's always going to get the penalty. Shouldn't be that way, but I don't know the last time I saw an offensive pass interference on a jump ball if the guy wasn't either hands on his shoulder pads, but if it's a jump ball like that, it's always going to go against the defender, and it's a shame because, I mean, like I said, our defenders played great yesterday, and that penalty, that did hurt us. I think they went up going down scoring at least a field goal on that, but Boodle played fantastic. His defensive plays yesterday, I mean, there's a reason why he was given a black shirt.
Yeah.
A lot of people still argue that maybe they handed the black shirts out a little early. You can argue either way, but I think the guys that have them, you can see the work they're doing.
Yeah.
And you can see them busting their tail. You see them not giving up on plays. And Frost mentioned that too in the press conferences. You know, Michigan said our guys gave up, and he said, "Listen, our guys aren't giving up out there." He goes, "If you watch the film like we do and really break down the plays, we're getting beat. We're not doing good enough to win the games, but we're not giving up. Yeah. These guys are fighting."
And they definitely fought back yesterday. Yeah. I mean, the first half was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And they really fought back in the second half. I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, I mean, we're still just not that good, but
yeah.
we have some good players. I mean,
yeah.
Martinez is great. Stanley's great. JD Spillman's great.
Yeah.
Zigbo played
fantastic. Like, God.
Biggest heart ever. And then you have Boodle and Barry and those guys on defense.
Yeah. I think, the undisciplined plays, the hit out of bounds was probably the most undisciplined play that we had was the hit out of bounds. But
I know. I don't know if it was like a frustration type thing.
Yeah.
Or what the deal was.
Yeah, no, no, it was not the 100+ yards and penalties. No, it wasn't all refs. They were poor, but there were things that we did that was very undisciplined. And we agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say 4 or 5 of those penalties were not penalties. But the other 7 or 8 that we got, absolutely. We still would have had 100+ penalty yards.
Yeah.
Someone's, Martinez, Dwayne, you think Martinez wasn't 100%?
Like I said to you, I think they've been holding the reins back on him a little bit as far as running the ball goes.
Yeah.
I
totally
feel like
agree.
they did. I mean, obviously didn't play in Troy, and then last week against Michigan, they basically just took him out so he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
First half this week, you could tell when he did hang on to the ball, he would just kind of run out of bounds or he wouldn't get very far. In the second half, he was like, either they told him to, or he was just like, I'm doing this, and you could totally tell a difference when he goes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And maybe he's not 100%.
He might not be.
And if he's not, then that just means he'll be that much better when he is.
Yeah. So we don't know, and Dwayne. That's a good point. I mean, there are times where in scrambling out of the pocket, for the speed that he has, that's when I saw that maybe he's not 100% when he couldn't scramble away from the defenders, but. Tim, thanks. So both hands to the face and roughing the pass are 15-yard. Okay. So either way, I didn't think it was a penalty. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the discipline on the team, and like you mentioned, Randall, 100+ yards and penalties is not all refs. No, and that's not what we're saying.
Not at all.
There were momentum swings. There was field position change that really did hurt us, and I feel like they got some 5-yard penalties here and there. I felt like it was very lopsided on the penalties, but we were very undisciplined in multiple aspects of that game. Whether there's a penalty or not, the discipline on the team was not there. And Frost said that it's just not. The team's not there. The team does, and he even said the team is just, we don't have the players there. We don't have the talent. And he even mentioned that the talent is just not up to standard right now.
Yeah.
It's not there.
And as far as, undisciplined goes, you have a 3rd and 19, and you don't keep contained. And the quarterback runs for 20 yards for first down.
Yes.
I mean, that's being undisciplined.
Yes. We made a lot of mental mistakes. There's another one where the tight end ended up going like 35, 40 yards on the pass. Because we had our corner. Our corner didn't do anything.
I know exactly.
The corner pushed in. It was on the left side. Corner pushed in, followed the wide receiver, and so did the safety. So here comes the tight end down. He's wide open. So those kind of things, undisciplined, mental. And people want to point at coaches. That's not coaching. That's up here. That's a mental mistake where once the corner takes that wide receiver, the safety's got to know he's got the overtop guy, and he didn't follow the tight end, and that's just.
And communication is a key in that particular instinct too. Instance rather. What do we got?
Tim, when does the Irish football segment start? Easy, buddy. We'll get there.
I think we're just gonna skip it this week.
But yeah, so Colorado, they jumped in the rankings. They're unbeaten, and we almost beat them. So I mean,
they beat up on UCLA.
I still question their offensive line because we had 7 sacks against them, and we haven't seen that type of. Our defensive line hasn't been that strong since.
Especially in the first half, man. We got no pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
It was insane.
But listen, I mean, I'm red till dead. I love my Huskers. I was very proud of the comeback that we had. And we had a shot to even make it 35-42, and then Martinez threw a poor pass.
That was a tough time
to
do that.
That was really.
He did the same thing in the Colorado game too.
So that was really tough. But once again, those are freshman mistakes. He's going to learn from that, and we're going to move forward. We're going to go on to our next game, and
it was like you said, right? Somebody where I was watching the game said yesterday. Somebody said, I thought that with Frost coming in, that we were going to be in every game. People would talk about, even if we don't win, we're going to be in the game.
Yeah.
And it was at a time in the game where we were losing by double digits, couple
27, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I thought we were going to be in games. And then we started coming back, and it was like, he knows what he's doing. he's got some of the guys fighting at least.
Yeah, well, and that fight didn't exist previously, and we didn't see
exactly.
that.
That was my point.
Yeah, that was not the way we saw the last few years. And in the 9-3 season that we had with Riley, I mean, our schedule was a lot easier that year too. But but to go from 5-7 to 9-3 to a 4-8, I mean, there's something that's shifting there in culture wise. But yes, I thought we'd be in every game as well, and we really have been, except for Michigan.
Yeah.
And so we have to continue to battle. The team has to continue to battle. They have to continue to, some of the mistakes, figure it out on their own. It's not coaching. It is those mental mistakes that they're making on the field. That is not doing your job on the field and making those undisciplined mental mistakes that are going to cost your team a touchdown, a first down, a 3rd and 19 first down. Those kind of things are killer, and those will take away momentum as well.
You get a stop and then they punt and you get good field position, but instead they get 20 yards and then they get a first down, and then when they do punt, you get the ball to 7.
Yeah. So it was rough, guys, and once again, no one knew this was going to be easy. No one thought this was going to be easy, and if you did, then you weren't really paying attention to what we had the last 3 years, the culture. And I expected like a 5-7 season. 6-6 would have been great. Now I'm hoping for 3 wins. If we get 3 wins, I'm happy. If we get 1 win, guess what? As long as we see improvement game to game to game, and we see those positive things, we see the undisciplined mistakes change, that's what we want. Right now, that's what we want to see. When we're getting 15, 10-yard penalties, every penalty we have because of undisciplined mistakes, that is changing the games. It wasn't turnovers yesterday. It was penalties.
Yeah.
We average over 10 yards per penalty. Or no, we average over 10 penalties per game, 10.3 per game. In yards, I mean, we got to be close to 115 yards on average per game because all our penalties are personal fouls or holdings.
I'm pretty sure we have the most penalty yards per game.
Oh, guaranteed.
In college football. But what I was going to say was
we'll get to Michigan as well.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise.
The Michigan game last week. I mean, that was that lack of confidence last week for Nebraska.
For sure.
I wouldn't disagree with that. We were just pushed around. We were outbeaten.
Yeah.
We were outsized. We were out. Speed was definitely a factor in that game too. And Dan says Yeah, so
hey,
we see the fight in the kids. We see that the kids, they don't want to lose. They're pissed.
Yeah.
These guys are not happy losing, and Frost is pissed about losing. The coaches, everyone's mad about losing, but how do you change that? You got to improve every game. We may win 3 games this year. We may win 1. We may win 2. We could go 0-12. We better beat Bethune-Cookman, but if we go 1-11, guess what? All we know is that we can do better, and we can get better.
That we will get better.
And we will. Frost is going to direct the ship. So, once again, I think it was another rough day. It was another rough day in college football for the Huskers, but like I said, last week, 0 positive things to say. This week, I think there's a lot of positive things to take away from that game to where we can improve on. And it's just those undisciplined mistakes.
You know, and I was talking to somebody too yesterday.
Young?
Upcoming this week, we got Wisconsin, right?
Mm-hmm.
This would be the year that we would beat Wisconsin when we're having a bad season.
My God, please. Yes.
We can beat Wisconsin. Yes. Not in a season where us beating Wisconsin gets us into the Big Ten championship.
This is just...
But...
we're not playing for the Big Ten right now. We're playing for a win.
Like we talked about before, if you can stop the run against Wisconsin, if, you make Hornibrook throw.
You get him on the scramble. You got to have him scramble.
He starts turning over the ball. If we can get some points off turnover.
Yep.
Gosh, we just needed a turnover yesterday.
We came close a couple times, but David mentioned, Frost is going to start benching guys. Absolutely.
Absolutely. He did yesterday. He put some players in that I hadn't seen before.
There was a couple guys, I'm like, who are you?
Guy made a tackle, and I'm like, wait, I pretty much know the players.
Yeah, don't know who that guy is. So that's what we want to see, too, on a coaching staff, is if they're not doing things right, you figure it out. You put them on the bench and say, you're not playing until you figure it out. I'm going to put someone that's going to fight harder and not make those mental mistakes. So, more power to him.
Lamar Jackson got burned for a long one again yesterday. It happens every game.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Oh, and I think they ended up putting in Lee Jr. And they put in Lee, and he's just as bad as Lamar Jackson in my point of view, but
Probably.
I think he's a substitute for Lamar, and maybe he's going to play better.
Hey, Kurt Warner's son got in there, made a couple catches.
He's not bad. Hey, he looked pretty good.
He's not bad.
He's a tall guy.
I
I didn't know he was on the team, so that was
I
fantastic.
did. I knew he was on the team because Kurt Warner was there for the spring game. I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
good for him. So a lot of things to build on for next week.
And Bill Murray was at the game.
Yes, Bill Murray. Unfortunately, didn't bring any luck, but that's okay. All right, I don't have anything else on the Huskers. You guys continue to comment if you want to on the Huskers. We're going to move on to the other games yesterday. There were some big games yesterday, last night. Ohio State, Penn State. So this game, holy cow,
that
good
stadium, football game, man.
That stadium, they beat the attendance record over at 110,400 something people, I think. So they beat the attendance record. Warner made some plays. We beat they beat their attendance record against Ohio State. Nebraska's like 4 on the list, playing at Penn State for attendance wise. But that game was just tooth and nail, man. Talk about two defenses playing their hearts out. I mean, as much as I don't like either team, as much as I really don't like Ohio State, holy cow! I mean, those teams just fought. I mean, that's what you call a battle in the trenches when two teams are just fighting it out. Every inch, every yard matters.
And I thought Haskins was going to be able to not necessarily have his way. I knew it was going to be the toughest defense he's seen.
Yeah.
They struggled early to put points on the board.
Yeah, and really it was a struggle in the second half for both teams to put points. And Penn State wasn't easing their way down the field either against Ohio State. And it just goes to show that Ohio State didn't have Bosa, but they got guys that can play.
Yeah.
So that game, 27-26, my only question in that game was the play calling on that 4th and 5.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they ended up getting a 4th and 14 or a 3rd and 14, so they had to battle back just to get 9 of those yards. Then on 4th and 5, you got McSorley's got over 170 yards rushing in the game. Most of them came on a pass and not the run. And so it wasn't the QB options that he made all his runs on. It was the pass where he decided to take off and run. That's where his long runs came. So I was expecting a pass play on that 4th and 5. I was not expecting
because then, if anything, he could tuck it and get
he would have had the option. And so that is. Yeah, so that last play call, and yes, I didn't see the post-game conference, but I'm really interested to see how many times it was asked to James Franklin, how many times they thought about what play they're going to run and why that was the option.
They took it out of McSorley's hands.
Yeah. I mean, they gave him the option to have it in his hands, but he gave it to Sanders, and there was just no room. And guess what? Ohio State, kudos to them, they read that play. They knew they were going to do that play, and it was
right there.
It was probably
guy met him in the right.
Probably because of the way they lined up. That'd be my guess. Since it wasn't the first time they'd seen it, they were prepared, and they both teams chess matched. Timeout. Okay, we're going to read that offense. Call a timeout. Okay, we're going to read your defense. We're going to call a timeout, and boom! It didn't change the end result.
I get it.
Yeah, good, Tim. So yeah, Franklin said it was on him. Of course he does. That was the play call, and that's what they decided to do, and. They took it right out of McSorley.
I mean, I get it. Like, if everybody knows that he's going to have the ball, then it's, he's going to get. Everybody's going to go to him. But
when you got Sanders is a good running back.
He is.
So he's a good option.
He is. I just thought you don't take it out of McSorley's hands.
I was shocked. Anyway, so that was a hell of a game. That was fun to watch. Same time, started a little bit earlier. I think either that or just got done faster. Was the Notre Dame Stanford. So number 8 Notre Dame took on Stanford. Now I've said it more than once this year is if Notre Dame is going to get to the college football playoff, it's going to be this year because of their schedule. Yeah. You can say Stanford's number 7. Absolutely, they are, and they deserve to be there. But I've not been. That's because they started there. They started in the top 10. But I have not been impressed with Stanford. I've watched I've watched probably 3.5 of their games. Not been impressed with their offense. Their defense is good, but I have not been impressed with their offense. So I didn't think they had a chance of beating Notre Dame because Notre Dame's defense is one of their really strong points. Let's see. But what I saw yesterday, we made a lot of dumb decisions. Yeah, penalties, absolutely. But one thing that I saw yesterday that Notre Dame hasn't shown yet this year, and the biggest difference that they have this year is Wimbush is not the starter anymore. And Book, really, that kid can play. And the dude's tall, he's fast, he's got wheels, and he can throw the ball. Dude can thread a needle. I mean, it started off, that game was actually toe-to-toe. They were going back and forth. It was 7-7, 14-14. Then ended up being, I think, 21-17. And then from there, Notre Dame just kind of took the wheel and said, hey, we got this. This is our game. And they did. Right. They ended up scoring another 17 points after that. and they ended up winning 38-17. And it really, if you watch any of that game, one thing I took away from that is Notre Dame controlled both sides of the ball. They did. Stanford had no answer on either side of the ball, and Notre Dame brought in different plays that they don't run on a day-to-day basis. And I was, Tim, you're going to like this, I was impressed on what I saw from Notre Dame because they were able to adjust how they needed to get to that 38-17 win. When there's a tie game, it's going back and forth.
Right.
Bryce Love was taken out of the game. He ended up getting hurt. But he was, to me, he was not a huge factor. And he wouldn't have made a big determination.
Maker.
He wasn't going to be a difference maker in the outcome of the game.
Right.
Notre Dame, yeah, so Dexter Williams came in and had over 100 yards rushing.
Played his first game.
First game back, so he was suspended. So Dexter Williams played really well, and I believe their other running back is hurt, if I remember correct. So, but Notre Dame, they control both sides of that ball. And when you look at their previous games, it's like, man, you guys struggle with Wake. You struggle with Vandy. And struggle with Ball State. And, yes, you beat Michigan. Michigan's now number 15. I think they dropped one in the standings after really almost losing Northwestern yesterday.
I was surprised.
So, yes, you beat two ranked teams. You know, Michigan, that to me, yes, that's a legit win. Stanford, obviously a legit win. But I do think Stanford, they dropped 7 spots. Usually you see an 8 and a 7 go head-to-head. No matter, even if the score is close, you don't see them drop 7 spots. That was a huge drop for them. But I think Notre Dame was that much better than Stanford. And I think they wanted to prove to everybody watching that game is we deserve a shot if we continue to win games.
And they don't have too many other opportunities. I mean, they play USC, but USC's not that
USC's
great.
having a down year.
They have Virginia Tech this next week. Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and Virginia
this
Tech
was probably their biggest game.
Jumped back into the rankings at like 23 or 24. So, yeah. So they jump back in the rankings. But that's because so many teams that jump into the rankings in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25,
I hate the rankings.
They lose and they jump back out. So all those teams, there's a lot of turnover in the last 5 of the top 25. But honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with Notre Dame right now. They just have to win. They beat Michigan. They beat Stanford. Boom. You got 2 wins.
Right.
Virginia Tech, they lost to Old Dominion. I don't think Notre Dame's going to have trouble with them. I think Notre Dame's going to beat Virginia Tech. I think they're going to destroy USC because I think USC, they have a decent defense, but they got an 18-year-old quarterback.
Right.
I don't think USC is going to cause any trouble for Notre Dame. I really don't.
So I would say the only thing that they need to worry about is having 4 conference champs undefeated.
I don't think it's going to happen, though.
I don't think it would happen either.
No. You're not going to have one in the Big 12. You're not going to have one in the Pac-12.
The Pac-12,
Pac-12's done already.
They're already done. I mean, they're not done, but...
So you're going to have probably either Bama, Georgia, or LSU, one of those 3 teams for the SEC. Ohio State is probably the front runner right now because they're the only team that lost in the Big Ten.
Iowa doesn't have a
Iowa. So, hey, you never know.
Right.
So Iowa is still in play for the Big Ten championship. And then in the ACC, Clemson struggled yesterday, man.
And Lawrence got hurt.
They really did.
How incredible was that? I mean, pretty much the same scenario as what happened to us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A guy gets named a starter, so then the guy doesn't show up to practice the next day, and then he transfers. And then
he didn't transfer. He's still enrolled in the school.
Okay, well, he's gonna leave.
He'll be a graduate transfer.
Right.
He's gonna be.
But then the kid gets hurt in the first game. It was pretty.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
pretty crazy.
It's one of those things where we know what that feels like.
It's deja vu.
But Syracuse, I mean, they took on Clemson yesterday, and Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he made a mistake. He never should have ran that ball, try to get extra yards. I mean, it was a long 3rd down. He wasn't going to get the first down. He should have just gone out of bounds.
I know.
So instead, he dives, and the guy, it wasn't a malicious hit. The guy was making the tackle and happened to knock him out. And unfortunate for Lawrence. And I got to be honest, I was not impressed with Lawrence.
I wasn't either, and I think he's come in and played pretty good.
Yeah.
I did watch when they beat Texas A&M. It was a pretty good game.
He was.
And he played. He looked really good in that.
Yeah.
But he started out real shaky. I don't know if it was just nerves of his first start. Syracuse defense was playing pretty solid.
They were.
And so he was getting some pressure. He had a bad fumble.
Yeah.
On a handoff that just dropped. Whatever.
Yeah, I
he didn't look that great.
I understand wanting to play your best guy, but you got a senior who's seasoned, he's done well. He's 16-2 as a starter, I believe, is what his record is. 16-2, and you want to start a true freshman over him. I understand Bryant wanting to leave. I mean, that's a slap in the face to me.
Yeah.
I understand both sides of the business. What I didn't like yesterday during that game is the announcers calling him selfish. The announcers were assholes. They're like, I can't believe, now this happens, and Bryant, he's got to feel really selfish. That was a really selfish move on his part to transfer and to leave the team. And I mean, we had our fans saying that about Jebbia, but I didn't feel the same way about Jebbia. If he wants to leave, leave. Brian wants to leave, man. It's your decision.
Yeah.
And
he could get hurt in the first game, and you could have the potential of taking your team to another playoff.
Yeah.
But
So that's the thing. You don't know what's going to happen. You want to make the best decision for yourself, and that's what Brian thinks he's doing. But to shame him on national television, that was gutless to me. That was horrible.
I didn't hear that. But
It was horrible. They said it more than once too. It wasn't like they said it one time. But anyway, so Notre Dame, they control their destiny to get in the playoff. They have to play their weaker opponents like they played Stanford. And that's what the problem has been, is they're playing down to their opponents. They have to bury them. That's what they need to put up 56 points like they did against Wake. So they didn't struggle with them. They took them a while, but they put up 56 points. That's what they need to do from this point forward.
Yeah, they just need to
secure that
I would
spot.
say at this point they just need to make sure that they don't have a letdown game and let one get away from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't let some team hang in and end up having a chance to beat them at the end.
Absolutely.
Or even have a kind of a hangover game against Virginia Tech this week because you just come off a big win.
Yep.
I'm sure Kelly's gonna have them.
He'll get them prepared
and ready to go. But
Ian Book's the right guy at quarterback. He is.
Yeah, it seems like it happens every other year. They have a quarterback come in and take their place of the starter.
Yeah, but man, that was just a couple of good games here. So Alicio, he mentioned that rooting for.
I do not love ND.
Rooting for Wisconsin to win the West. It's gonna be them or Iowa if you ask me. It's not gonna be Purdue. It's not gonna be Northwestern. It's not gonna be Illinois. There's teams in the West.
Minnesota.
Yeah, so it's gonna be Wisconsin or Iowa. So Alicio doesn't like Iowa. We know that now. He's rooting for Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin. I don't know. I can't even say that as far as who has a better chance to beat Ohio State.
I don't know if anybody does.
Iowa put 55 points last year.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So Iowa's got a good defense as well. So Iowa could very well take on Ohio State if they get up and win the Big Ten West. So you just never know. Jimmy loves Notre Dame. That's funny. Jimmy. We all know what that is. Thanks, Alicio. Appreciate it. But yeah, anyways, it was a fun Saturday. Really, those two games, and then Clemson. Yes, they struggled against Syracuse.
Syracuse was better than I thought.
They looked pretty good.
They looked pretty good.
The only problem is their offense. Their offense was not very good.
Yeah, you're right.
And if their offense was better, they would have beat Clemson.
They should have won the game. When Lawrence goes out and they're up
even
by
with
10 to
even with Lawrence in, I think they should have won the game. But their offense is just a little shaky. But it was really a sloppy game all around. Neither offense looked good. The defenses looked good. That was about it. And otherwise, you got LSU won. They beat Ole Miss. Oklahoma, man, Kyler Murray yesterday. If he's not in, or you look at Clemson, their running back. I keep on wanting to say Etienne, but it's like Eddie M. There's his last name, or Ediana.
Okay.
He had 203 rushes and 3 TDs. He looked really good. Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah, he's really good.
Dude, Kyler Murray. For Oklahoma, 17-21, 432 yards and 6 TDs. That dude's got to be number one. There's no way. I'd put him above Tua. Alabama, they don't play crap for defenses either, but I think Kyler Murray, he's put up multiple 400-yard games this year. That's insane.
The way the Big 12 is. You put him and Greer up there.
They put up 66 points.
West Virginia, the same way. He's throwing...
Auburn beat Southern Miss.
But they struggled, I think.
But there was a 3-hour delay.
That's tough.
So it was 24-13 with a 3-hour delay thrown in. But so Auburn, you can say they struggled, but after a delay like that, that's tough for football. It's a little bit easier for a baseball team, but for football, man, I think that's a lot harder to get that many guys ready. Washington beat BYU. LSU beat Ole Miss. I think it was like they put up 35-17 or something.
Gotcha.
That was a late game. I ended up watching the rest.
Yeah,
But Washington beat BYU. So I think that knocked BYU back out of the top 25.
Man, if
they just jumped in.
If Washington could have figured out a way to beat Auburn that first game, they probably would go undefeated.
Oh, easy. West Virginia beat Texas Tech. Now that game kind of came down to the wire. It was 35-28. And then Texas Tech threw a pick. And then they ended up scoring, making it 42, 34. And then, or 42-28, and then they ended up scoring one, tried to get the extra point, then tried going for two. It just didn't work out for them. But really, that game was pretty good game as well. Greer was 27-41 with 370 yards and 3 TDs. So not a bad game.
12 quarterbacks, man.
UCF looked good over Pitt, 45-17. Milton threw for 328 yards and 4 TDs. He's got to be in the Heisman conversation as well, if you ask me.
That's awesome.
Let's see. We got Michigan beat Northwestern 2017. That game was.
It was 17-7 for quite a while.
It was 17-0. They had
17-0.
They had a 17-point lead, and then Michigan scored in the second.
Yeah, they showed how in game they do like a going on in Evansville or Evanston.
Yep.
Whatever. So
that game
I couldn't believe that.
Kentucky remains undefeated. They won.
Their running back's good. He could be a Heisman candidate.
Yes. Texas beat K-State 19-14. Not an impressive win, but they won. Texas has continued to win in games like they need to. Oregon beat Cal. Michigan State won. Virginia Tech beat Duke, so Duke just jumped in. Now they're back out. Florida beat Mississippi State.
I was surprised. That was Mullen going against his former team.
Yep. So really not a lot of change in the top 25. We got about 8.5 minutes here. So it's easy to win championships with 4.9 star recruits. Yeah, Bama, absolutely. Yeah, it makes it easy.
Yeah, Alabama is going to be favored by double digits in every single game.
Oh, easy. Yeah, easy.
Easily.
Yeah.
And they'll probably beat everybody.
And the SEC sucks. Georgia right now, LSU and Georgia. And Auburn. I mean, you got 4 teams that are okay, that are doing
Auburn
pretty good.
LSU.
So you never know what's going to happen with Bama. Those games, I think they could be pretty good with LSU or Georgia or Georgia. Next week, top 25, not a lot of changes. You got Ohio State jumped up 1-3. Of course, Herb Street's like, they should jump in the top 2 conversation.
He was saying that.
I don't know why they allow him to do Ohio State games. It's ridiculous because he actually didn't homer them too much last night, but he usually does.
Yeah, no, I hate that.
But I don't know. Get him out of there. Clemson dropped a spot to 4.
Yeah, they're dropping, man.
Which really, I mean, you could have jumped LSU ahead of them to 4.
Probably could jump Notre Dame.
Notre Dame and Clemson after that performance, but we'll see going forward. Still a lot of
jump
football
Oklahoma
left.
over them.
Yeah, Oklahoma dropped down to 7, and Notre Dame jumped 2 to 6. Jumped 2 spots up to 6. Auburn jumped up. West Virginia, Washington all up. Penn State down. UCF up 1. Kentucky up 4. Stanford moved down 7 to 14, and Michigan dropped 1 to 15. Next week, not really a lot that should be. I mean, there's going to be good football.
Oh yeah, there always is.
But as far as top 25 matchups that could be really. Make a difference in the playoff. You got Texas playing Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl.
It's always a good one.
And Texas is really getting their feet underneath them. Ellinger is starting to play pretty well as quarterback. I'd look out for that. Texas really could take over Oklahoma and win that game, but they're going to have to contain Kyler Murray because he can run and he can throw. Obviously, we know he can throw. So Tim, the double overtime win with Oklahoma and Army. They don't seem to punish teams like that because really, once again, Syracuse and Clemson, they lost to Syracuse last year.
Right.
Didn't stop them from getting in. They just didn't take it as big of a hit as they probably should.
They took it as
Bryant got hurt.
Bryant got hurt, and it was an early season loss.
Mm-hmm.
That always is worse when you lose at the end.
So, and Oklahoma won. They beat Army. I understand. I don't disagree with you, Tim. I think that OU should have dropped a couple spots from there because at that week
they did. I'm pretty sure they did because
they dropped 1 spot to 5. They're at 4 and they dropped to 5.
This week? Oh.
No, the week
they
after
were at 4.
they were at 4.
5.
And then, or they were at 5 and dropped to 6. That's what happened.
Okay.
But I thought Notre Dame was going to jump them that week because of that performance against Army. But they didn't. And it is what it is. Once again, rankings are subjective. It's really hard, or objective, so it's really hard to.
Yeah, I mean, you got UCF. What are they at?
They're at 12 or 13 now.
Yeah, I mean, when the first playoff rankings come out, they're going to be like 19th.
Yeah, they're wanting to be up. Well, and maybe not. After last year, if they're continuing that dominance and they go undefeated again, they might not be. But we'll see. They're not going to be in the playoff. We know that. A lot would have to happen. But next week, Texas, Oklahoma. I'm really looking forward to that game. I really want to see what Texas brings to that game. As much as I don't like the Longhorns, I would love to see them knock off Oklahoma.
It's always a good game.
So I think it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I'm still gonna take Oklahoma by 17. I think their offense. Texas offense is not as fast paced and as powerful as Oklahoma.
And like home run threat type.
Yeah.
Offense. Yeah. I'm with you.
When you complete 17 passes for 430 yards,
that's incredible.
Those are long plays. I mean, that's not obviously receivers making plays too. And then you got Clemson at Wake Forest. I'm putting that on there because we don't know what's going to happen with Clemson next week. We don't know if Lawrence is going to play. If they have Bryce at quarterback, he actually didn't do too bad. He's a freshman.
I mean, he was better than our third string that came in.
Yeah, but he didn't look that bad. So I think Clemson Wake Forest could be an interesting game to watch next week. Wake Forest, they gave a 56 to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame could beat Clemson right now, to be honest. I think Notre Dame could battle with Ohio State right now, to be honest. Just with what I saw yesterday. Two different style of teams, but I just thought they looked really good yesterday. But Clemson Wake Forest, that could be a tricky game.
Okay.
It's at Wake Forest, so it's at home.
You forgot to put Nebraska and Wisconsin on there.
We were going to talk about it anyways. I didn't have to put it down. I'm not expecting to win, but I'm expecting to fight. I'm expecting the team hungry to go into Wisconsin and really, just grind it. Grind out and try to win this game the best we possibly can and fight until the end.
Yeah, I would say I'm not expecting a win. I am hoping to have a good start.
I want to clean up the discipline mistakes.
Yeah.
If we have 6 penalties in that game, I will be happy.
Yeah.
If we have 12 penalties again, I'm going to be really mad.
Yeah.
But it's the undisciplined stuff that we got to clean up.
If we can get a fast start. If we have the start that we did on offense yesterday and just kind of build from there and maybe get a couple stops, just hang in the game.
Yeah. We know what we can do.
We can hang in the game, we got a shot.
We saw what we can do on offense, and we saw we can score fast. We've seen it more than once this year. Now, Nebraska can score fast. It's duplicating that. It's getting it done again and again and again and again. UCF does that.
Yep.
And we have to get it done again and again and again. A lot of teams do that, but we seem to score fast, and then it's like,
Yeah.
We change our play calling. There's something that just doesn't click on the next offensive drive. We need to put up 14 in our first 2 drives.
Well, we need to score, and then we need to stop them and have the defense jacked up a little bit, and then have the offense be like, all right, the defense is stopping them.
Quicker starts.
Yeah, we can get after them. So
yeah, one thing I want to say, last thing about the press conference is I thought it was really funny, and Scott Frost's response to the question. I didn't hear the question.
You didn't hear any questions.
But his response was, I don't care what UCF is doing. Oh. And then there was a follow-up question. He goes, that's not for me to know, that's for you to know, and walked off. He was pissed. Because a lot of the national media is like Scott Frost is second-guessing his decision to go to Nebraska.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. He wants to be here. He wants to win. He is home.
And even a lot of those national guys, they came out this week and they said after the Michigan loss, and they're like, fans, just be patient.
A lot of
people. He's like, buy stock in Scott Frost in Nebraska.
It's clickbait. They want clicks. They want likes. They want people to pay attention to what they have to write, even though that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean.
So, anyways.
We know it's a process.
We got Huskers back. We are 100% red until dead. It's tough this year. It's going to be tough this year. Maybe tough next year. But we're going to ride this team until we die. And being Cubs fans,
yes.
We know what it's like to wait for championships. We do.
And it was worth the wait.
And we've been waiting now, 20 years, 20 plus years, 21 years now for a championship, or over 20 years. We want that championship, but we know it's going to take time, take patience, get the right people in place. Joe Madden came into the Cubs, right person, boom, they go to the playoffs, boom, they win the championship, playoffs. I mean, 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
That is what Frost is going to try to build on. Is I want to get my guys in, and I want to win. He's going to do that.
Last 30 seconds here.
look at all the first year coaches. Yeah, so all the first year coaches are struggling. And
it takes time.
international media point that out as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm not worried about it. Go Big Red. Go Huskers.
As always.
Congratulations to all the teams that won yesterday. You Notre Dame fans out there, enjoy it. You guys are going to go to the playoff this year. Just got to take care of business. Jimmy's not happy about it, but I'm trying to be realistic. So go Big Red. I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
We're two average guys. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.